My name is Alex Geeth, and today I'm going to be talking about this website, clayworks.net, and some recommendations that I might have to make this a better user experience. Here is my website redesign proposal. As the internet and people change, the content and conventions of websites must change with them. The first thing that most users noticed about this website was that it had a little bit of a dated feel. And that's because of some layout issues and some other things that I'll identify coming up here soon. I think the first big issue of it was that the site was very functional and that most users could complete most of the tasks, but it was very far from optimal. And I think a lot of it came from that it was not a mobile first or mobile friendly design in any way. It sort of was built probably before mobile caught on real big. On some of my research that was pulling from the Pew Institute, it said that 40% of users will leave a website if they don't feel it is mobile friendly. And as you'll see here in just a second, the mobile version of the site was just a desktop version, just very, very small. So small that you could barely read it, which was typical for the dawn of the mobile age. Fast forward to today, though, 95% of Americans own a cell phone, and 77% of Americans have smartphones, again, according to more Pew research. And with those statistics, you have to take a mobile-first approach to your design and your philosophy today. If not, you're excluding a large demographic, a large client base that could potentially want to use your site. This is the current site here in both the desktop and mobile versions. And I did a little bit of a usability test on those sites using just the desktop version because the mobile version, there's really not a mobile version to try. If you're unfamiliar with what a usability test is, it's really just about watching somebody try to use something and then taking notes and seeing how they do. And for this site, I chose 3 people that represented a good demographic of users that might want to use this website, and I gave them all a task. These tasks were all simple things that your typical user to this website would want to do. If they can order some of the decorative tiles that this website offers, if they can follow their social media, if they can find the contact information, if they could find examples of work, and if they could find the home button. All the users were able to complete most of those tasks that I had listed for them. And the easiest for them to do by far were to locate the social media that was available to them and to locate the contact information of the studio. And those are kind of 2 very important pieces of the puzzle, but they're certainly not the whole piece. One area that I fell short in was not only e-commerce, but again, just having sort of an amateurish feel and feeling dated. It diminished the goodwill of the user before they even started getting into the experience. From the test, though, I did come up with a few recommendations that should lead to a better user experience and hopefully to some more traffic for Clayworks if they needed it. And those recommendations I will outline in detail, but they're basically just a new layout with some updated conventions that will restore some of that goodwill of the user before they start into their experience. And we're going to do that with a little bit of branding. The e-commerce that's on there is almost non-existent, and it's very important with so many shoppers today that is on there and sticks with other conventions that are on the web currently. Consistent and current content, and I'll get into that later. And also like a gallery of work. Seems like we are a lot more focused on pictures these days. With Instagram and social media, we just digest pictures a lot easier, and that's become sort of the norm in the art market, which is where this website is trying to get to. My first recommendation is just a new layout that sort of follows some updated conventions that people are used to today. And it's okay to sort of look like other sites. What's going to set it apart is the branding and the content and what the website has to offer, and not necessarily the layout. They stick to these layouts because these are parts of known conventions that will help the user have a better experience overall, and people will just know how to use your site more intuitively. This layout should include sort of an updated menu bar that has a collapsed menu on the mobile version and flies out in the desktop version to a left-handed menu, and also has a search button. There's different theories about how many people search versus navigate through a menu, but it's pretty clear that there are searchers and there are people who like to use the menu, so we include the search button for people who are used to searching the web that way. Below the menu would usually be a large image. I would recommend something that is of an artist working, or something that is a product that's being offered. And some people call that the hero image, and it usually falls just under the menu and really wraps up kind of the color scheme, if you want to, and the feel of the website, and sort of putting forth what your feelings are through the picture. Under that hero image, I recommend doing the new products in their own categories and set apart, and with plenty of links that can be clicked to view them. This gray box would contain the product image, and then the product title, which would be a link to put it into a cart, and to learn more information about it, which would be a product page. My next recommendation would be updated branding. And this is not what I think it should be, but just an example of what branding I would like to see from them. More of a unified typeface as opposed to what they currently have on their website, which is sort of dated typefaces that are defaults and of different colors and not cohesive at all. I'd also like to see better use of color and images, and while these are nice, and I kind of like the brown tones with purple, and again, this is just an example, I think some of the imagery should contain, again, work that's being done at the studio. Another big recommendation I would have is e-commerce. About 8 out of 10 Americans shop online. Again, that's according to Pew Research. With 80% of Americans shopping online, it's pretty important that you stick to the conventions of other websites that are out there. The current website, you order through mail or through email, and send them the money. And that just seems outdated, and some people might associate it with a scam, as one user did in user testing. And really, it just diminishes the goodwill again, aside from the bad branding and bad layout that it had that diminished it in the first place. The e-commerce is what really soured all users on sort of trying to utilize the website. My next recommendation sort of had to do with the social media, but in today's world, content is king. I've heard it over and over again from many different people, and it's important that content be consistent and that it be current. On the current site, when you go to the blog that is a WordPress blog, it does have some okay content, but it's scattered and dated, and it's not very well formatted, so it wasn't very pleasant to look at, very pleasing to the eye. So in a time where content is king, it's really important to stay on top of the blogs and the images and the social media. And that sort of ties into my last recommendation, which is a gallery of work. One of the tasks was to be able to find examples of work that's been done, and the examples that were there were in kind of an odd space, and they were not well done, they were not well touched up, and probably were not a good example of the product that they're offering. And again, I would recommend pictures of not only products, but artists that are working on the product. Those are my recommendations for clayworks.net, and here are some links and some places where you can find some of the statistics that I talked about today. Again, this was clayworks.net. Thank you for your time, and goodbye.